What's good? What's good? It's your boy Melbo, and this is South Got Something to Say podcast. This is where the real conversation happens, from community to culture to sports to education and everything in between. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you'll never miss when we drop in something new. And if you rocking with us and what we're doing, share the episode with somebody from your city who got something to say too. Let's represent the South and our itty bitties the right way. Now let's get right to it. So subscribe, or no more barbecue plates at the cookout for you.
New mic check, 1, 2. Welcome to the wave. It's the South Got Something to Say. No.
Let's talk about this Alabama Literacy Act today. We got to talk about it. We got to expose it for what it truly is. Y'all already know we in the midst of our pipeline project, where we examine the school to prison pipeline that's being created each and every day. And as much as I didn't want to recognize it, it just screamed out at me that this Alabama Literacy Act leads right to the school to prison pipeline. What a show we got for y'all. Jam-packed, knowledge filled. I'm telling you, the research behind this Alabama Literacy Act leads me right back to my school to prison pipeline project that we working every day. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. 5,000, nearly 5,000 of our itty-bitties got retained. In one state, that's 1 to 10, 1 out of every 10 third grader got retained. You got to be kidding me. But yes, I get it. I went to college. I studied education, and the one thing that Dr. Chestnut always told us, from kindergarten to third grade, you learning to read. From fourth grade on, you reading to learn. I get it. But is this the best practice for our babies? You have to stay tuned to this episode, because we're going to break down every piece, every little bit of this Alabama Literacy Act. And don't ever think that the state of Alabama, let me look at you in the face, don't you ever think the state of Alabama is putting something in place for you and your itty bitties to be successful. So we have to look at the whole totality of everything that is written in that law, and how, and why, and for what reason do we need to retain almost 5,000 third graders? How is that happening? We'll see. Now, do we need strong literacy programs in the state of Alabama and nationwide? Oh, yes, we do. We're not talking about the act itself. We're talking about the consequences that comes with that act. We can all agree that our babies have to learn to read. We can all agree to that. But we can also agree that it is more than punitive to retain these kids at such a rate. It is more than punitive. And we can also agree that this is setting our babies so far back. It seems like Jim Crow, not just for black folks. This is Jim Crow for everybody. But guess who's going to be affected the most? Marginalized communities. People that look just like me. But we around here, we talking about everything. I'm seeing everything coming down my timeline, but anything about this Alabama Literacy Act. But the news has dropped. Over 4,000, almost 5,000. We'll get into the exact numbers as we get into the show, but almost 5,000 third graders in one state. And we don't got but 55,000. We don't got but 55,000 third graders in the state. and 5,000. That's 1 out of every 10. Y'all make sure y'all share this live, share this video. Parents with elementary kids, parents with kids from K through 3rd grade, you need to be tuned in and you need to be informed. You need to be informed. This is serious. This is an attack on our babies. And I understand some people might see it totally different than me, but I have been around long enough to know that Alabama ain't trying to do nothing for us. So we gonna break down this Literacy Act and what it is. And on the surface, it's a beautiful thing. But when you get down in the weeds, when you start to bite down and you getting more bone than meat, we got a problem here. So I'm gonna expose this Alabama Literacy Act for what it truly is. It is another mechanism to add to the school to prison pipeline. If you got kids from K through 3rd, you need to be in here. And if you're not in here, y'all need to share this video even after it's published and after it's live to anybody. Because what I have done is some research that is unbelievable. Let's talk about it. I'm here in Mississippi. This Dr. K. Sean Myers. It's here in Mississippi. There are children 11 and 12 years old in the 3rd grade. That's context enough. That's enough information to show you. That's enough information to enlighten you right there. 11 and 12-year-old 3rd graders. They're ruining these kids' life before it even gets started. They are ruining these kids' life before it ever gets started. Let's talk about it. And we so misinformed. We inform ourselves on the wrong information so much. We consume the wrong information so much that they slide this stuff right on our nose. But here on the South Got Something to Say podcast, we would not miss any of it. I veered off last week and talked a little local politics. But I'm back on the mission that God set me out to do, and that's keep the South informed on these dangerous practices that's used to drive our children from school straight to these private-owned prisons. So welcome back to the South Got Something to Say podcast. I'm Mayor Bo. I'm in the midst of the pipeline project. I think we're on like episode 6, episode 7, where we take a hard look at how policies, practices, and systems either uplift our students or push them closer to the school to prison pipeline. And today, I want to dig into something that can make waves not only here in Alabama, but throughout the United States. As you can see, as the commenter said on the screen, Dr. Sean Myers. That is in Mississippi too. And it's the Alabama Literacy Act. This year, 2024-25 school year, nearly 5,000 3rd graders were retained because they didn't pass a reading test. That number is 10 times higher than it was last year. Now let's stop right here. Stop and think. What happened to these kids years from now? If you are 11 and 12 years old and you are now in the 3rd grade, what happened to these kids years from now? We don't never want to stop and think that we keep talking about the kids are our future, but why are we ruining their future? You mean to tell me it is no more strategies, no more tactics, no more intervention that you can do besides retain a child? And I know some of these seasoned politicians who came up with this act, they got 1,000 things to put word salad together and make it sound good. But retention isn't just about academics. It is more than academics. It can shape the outcome of these children's lives. Yo, we got to understand what's going on. Because if we don't connect the dots, we risk creating yet another way into the pipeline, another pipeline into the prisons. So let's talk about what the Alabama Literacy Act actually does. So this Alabama Literacy Act was passed in 2019, but the retention policy just fully kicked in. They just started enforcing due to COVID and other things. They just fully start enforcing the retention policy. So here, the law, the act is if a third grader don't pass the state reading test, they can be held back. Now they got some exemption causes and some good causes, but the reality is thousands and thousands of 8 and 9-year-olds are repeating the third grade. Now, like I said, nobody here, the act is noble. Nobody is here arguing that our kids need to know how to read. Ain't nobody arguing that each kid should read on their grade level by the end of third grade. Because research shows read proficiency by the third grade is a stronger predictor of future academic success. We get that part. But here's the catch. Is retention as a solution? What kind of serious consequences come with that? Think about it. You tell a child, hey, you didn't make the cut. They watch their peers move on, but they stay behind. Y'all, let's be realistic here. Now suddenly, these kids don't like school no more. School isn't a place for success. All they see is failure in the school. School becomes a place of shame. And guess what, y'all? Y'all don't want to address it, but black students from low-income families, and students with disabilities who already face many barriers in their life, this policy hits even harder. It hits even harder for kids that look like me. Kids that don't come from the same socioeconomic background as others. Marginalized communities that's already feeling the brunt of this thing called life. And you gonna now tell a third grader, an 8-year-old, that you failed. Not that we failed you. Not that we failed you. We don't, and you do this in the midst of a teacher shortage. And you do this in the midst of a teacher shortage. For one reason. I'm gonna call a spade because I've been doing this a long time. The criteria to be a teacher, the criteria is too hard. And it's designed that way. Up to 3 years of retention. That baby was supposed to be getting ready for middle school before they advance to the 4th grade. That is ridiculous. Y'all, do y'all see the information? Free information that y'all getting. But we too busy worried about who gonna win the election, I guess. I guess that's more important than our babies being driven through a pipeline to prison. But let's talk about it. So why does retention hurt so bad? Let's talk about what happens when these children are retained, when our itty bitties, our babies are retained. Research shows that retention increases the risk of kids having low self-esteem. It increased the risk of them disengaging totally from school. It increased the risk of them dropping out of school. These are factors before the Literacy Act. Before you fail a child who went and tried and did their best but didn't pass one little simple state test. Everybody ain't great test takers. Now you're creating the behavior issues. And here's something more chilling than anything. Students who are retained more likely to eventually enter the juvenile justice system. And we already know that. Why? Because retention often sets off a domino effect. A retained student started to act out because of the embarrassment. You got 12-year-olds getting picked on and bullied for still being in the 3rd grade. And you think this is the solution. Over time, those discipline issues will lead to suspensions and expulsions, and eventually they'll come in contact with law enforcement. And right here, you see the connection to the school to prison pipeline. This is nothing that needs to be shied away from. We need to be stepping into it. And when y'all go to these polls, who is talking about it? Not nobody I heard. What is the plan? What is the plan? Cause I should have you on here with me, but we're gonna do an episode together. I'm gonna call you. This is the information they need. It increases bad behavior, create poor classroom management, which then increases teacher shortages. Do y'all get it? Do y'all get it? Now, take it. I am not talking about the teachers who do an amazing job every day. This ain't about the teachers. The teachers do an amazing job. It's about a set of standards that somebody sat in their room and created. When some of our kids don't even identify with the things they're reading. You asking a kid to read about someone going to a beach who never left out of a poor community. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You never give a kid something that they can relate to when they're reading. Y'all need to understand that this thing is real. And if we don't get a grip on our ear business, we're going to lose them altogether. Because Orange Man already trying to eliminate the Department of Education or anything to do with education. Because guess what happened in these private schools? Y'all want to talk about it? Y'all want to talk about what the folk that don't look like are doing with their kids? I bet you don't got no Alabama Literacy Act. I guarantee you, they don't have to follow it. They don't have to follow none of the Alabama State Department of Education policies and procedures. Why you think they created their own school? Hint, hint. We talking about how this leads to the school to prison pipeline. The school to prison pipeline refers, this is not a cliche saying. It refers to a set of policies and practices that push students, especially students that look like me, out of schools and right into the criminal justice system. That's the school to prison pipeline. That's it. That's the school to prison pipeline. And it often starts with things like get suspended because of zero tolerant discipline programs, not having restorative practices. We talked about all of this in our past episodes. Excessive suspension and expulsions. And now you add in this. We already have underfunded schools that don't provide support services because they can't afford them. Now we're gonna layer in the Alabama Literacy Act. Y'all, I don't just come on here on Thursdays and talk about this stuff for my health. I'm telling y'all this stuff because it's real. It's a lot of junk that I can come on here and talk about. get 4,000 or 5,000 in the check if I want to be that way. But what I am doing on a week in and week out basis is trying to provide us in marginalized communities the information needed to not fall in this school to prison pipeline, not let our babies fall in this school to prison pipeline. This is serious. I created this pipeline project for just that reason. And then when I turn on the news and I hear that 5,000 third graders out of 55, that's 1 out of every 10 are labeled behind, labeled slow, and now they're about to become behavior problems. And once labeled, they're more likely to be disciplined harshly. And when they're disciplined harshly, they're more likely to disengage. And when they disengage, they're more likely to drop out. And then they're more likely to go to prison. And the prison pipeline becomes more clear. Retention is not neutral. It's a stepping stone toward exclusion. They are getting rid of your babies. And never forget about the equity piece that comes with that. Don't forget about the equity piece, because who is being retained the most? The data show is disproportionately Black students. Black students and students with disabilities and kids from low-income backgrounds. That's what the data show. Shout out to Dallas County. We didn't retain 1 third grader, but we've been having struggling numbers for years. And what we do, we put in the work and we grind with limited resources. Now we're telling our kids who need the most help that they're being left behind because we don't have the resources. Because we don't have the resources. But shout out to Dallas County for not retaining 1 single kid. When I saw that stat, I jumped for joy. Keep putting in the work, teachers. Keep putting in the work, students. Keep putting in the work, parents. Keep putting in the work, school board. Keep putting in the work, administrators, re-intervention coaches, who all that put in the work to get these babies. Not 1 baby in the Dallas County area will retain. Shout out to the teachers over here in the Dallas County area. That is kudos. That is a big salute. Because we do not have the support services that we should have. We do not have the intervention coaches and all of that. But the people that we do have, let me say this, because I'm not beating up on our beautiful teachers who do an excellent job every day. I'm beating up on a system that's designed to usher our kids into prison. But what I will say is, the teachers, for us in Dallas County to have 0 kids on that list, you were one of the few. So shout out to you. But I ain't heard not one candidate, not one acknowledge the teacher success in that field right there. That all of our third graders, none of them was retained. Not one. We too busy talking about stuff that don't matter. So instead of uplifting communities already carrying a heavy burden, we carry it's kids coming to school every day that don't see their childhood friends because of violence in these neighborhoods. They already struggling with enough. It's kids that's growing up in single parent homes. What is a single parent mom or a single parent dad? It don't matter. But we're not coming from, and then you telling them on all of the issues that they deal with on a daily basis already, that just because you couldn't pass this test, that I'm retaining you up to 3 years. We have 12-year-olds in the 3rd grade. This is a doctor in education that told y'all that. That's been in the education system in Mississippi. Up to 3 years of retention. This is a very serious issue, a very serious topic that we have to take serious. That's why I'm glad I had fun. I promise you I did. I had fun last week. I had fun last week. I guarantee you, any parent who say what Ken Drew just said, I guarantee you, any parent that say what Ken Drew just said will ensure that their kid don't. No matter how much it costs, no matter how much time is spent, that he will ensure that his child is not held back. But buddy, I got to be the one to tell you, and you know you my dog. I got to tell you the truth. Everybody ain't in the situation you in. Everybody don't have a father like you. And everybody life ain't determined off of one test. And you say you rather have your child 12 years old in the 3rd grade than push them to the next grade, I have to seriously disagree with you. Because you thinking from a parent standpoint, which is a beautiful thing, because you're a great parent. But you got to start looking at it from the child's standpoint. It's down that I'm being picked on, I'm being bullied, I'm watching my peers move on. Get out of parent mode so much and lock in to what's best for your baby. And if your baby can't read, that's a difference. That's a difference than somebody setting a standard to say what they can and they cannot read. We got to talk about it as it come in. You got to understand, is it a standard set? And who's setting the standard? But hey, to each his own. But I guarantee you, any parent that say what kids who say, I'd rather have my child held back, will ensure their child not held back. I got to be the one to tell y'all, because we are reaching a point, we are reaching a critical moment where the school to prison pipeline is going to take on, because we're starting to break through. That's my problem. That's my problem of practice in my doctorate program. We're starting to break through. Exactly. The struggling students take the same state test without modifications to the test. And that's what I'm saying. We're looking at a kid that don't understand. They talk about things that the kid can't relate to and see in their mind because they never left the hood. They don't understand the ocean and the beach balls and all of that. They never left the hood. They can't relate. They can't get that mental picture because all they see is the hood. That's a real thing in education. That's a real thing. Who's checking the validity of these tests? Y'all, we can get down in the mud if you want to about this. And I'm telling you, I'm built for it and I'm ready. This is a serious issue when it comes to our itty bitties. No modifications to the test. No accommodations for no individualized accommodation for these babies. Just fail, try it again. No. But why we can't have alternatives to retention? It don't have to be this way, y'all. We don't have to retain these kids. We can do high quality reading intervention starting early. How about each one of these kids, after they get to the 3rd grade, let's talk about this, y'all. After they get to the 3rd grade and they didn't pass the test, the people, the state of Alabama, who is willing to retain 5,000 3rd graders, provide tutoring and mentoring programs for 5,000. And then they want to do it in the summertime. Y'all, please don't let this be missed. That they do all of the retesting and testing and interventions in the summer. So now you're taking these children summer. Why we can't have high quality read interventions for these kids? Tutoring and mentoring program for these kids. You mean to tell me we go right to failing them, right to retention, and you were willing to tell me that it's okay to have a third grader 12 years old because we can't teach them? So, I ain't gonna say that. No, they don't just fail them. If they don't pass, they have individual development plan based off of what each individual child needs. This is seeming like an educator who would probably know different. I know what I know, so I'm not questioning anything anybody's saying. Because it seemed like she know what she said. She said if they don't pass it, they have individual development plan based off of what each individual child needs. Okay, so I dare to ask, if that's the case, if they don't meet those individual development plans and still don't pass the ACAP reading test, at what point do they say they exhaust all opportunities and they fail? And then what do we do after that? Do we just put it back in the third grade and hope they get it next time? Hey, baby. This is what we need to be looking into. And I don't have all the solutions. I promise you I don't. But I know one thing, I'm gonna bring it to the public so we can see it, and I'm gonna expose it, and we're gonna look as deep as we can. And I know some people out there smart, and I know some people who know, and we're gonna get the information to these parents. I don't have a third grader no more. In some of these classrooms where these kids are failing, and some of these teachers can be my witness, they have 15, 20, 25 students to one teacher. We need smaller class sizes. And you need to make sure that the kids who struggling in first and second grade, by the time they get to third grade, when they in risk of failing if they don't pass this test, have smaller class sizes and more tutoring and mentoring programs and more high quality read individual interventions. More summer learning programs, more after school tutoring, more everything. You pour everything you got into these kids before you say they fail. This is serious business. And we here on the South Got Something to Say podcast would love to talk about Chris Brown, and we would love to talk about all that fun stuff out there. But at some point, we got to sit down and make sure that we exhausted all avenues possible to make sure our babies are set up for success. The school year just started. We got kindergarten and first graders and parents of kindergarten and first grade who need to hear just this, that is this serious. And instead of waiting to third grade and then punishing the child, because I hope y'all understand this. No matter what it seemed to you parents, it don't matter what it seemed to you teachers, it don't matter what it seemed to you state law makers, these kids retaining is a punishment. But we can build systems that catch reading struggles in kindergarten and first grade before we punish a kid with retention. You would know prior to third grade if your kid is struggling. They have tested prior to third grade called I Read It. Yes, she's speaking them of facts now. I Read It and I Read It math. They just tested this week to determine where the kids are. They will have another in December and one at the end of the year. Great information. So parents, now, this is where the parents need to get involved. How many of our parents know about this I Read It testing? This I Read It math and this I Read It reading testing. Thank you so much. Taisha, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you so much. Great information. How many of y'all know that y'all baby tested this week? How many of y'all made sure they got into bed at a decent hour to be ready for this test, and then they're all sleepy and tired doing this test or hungry? That's why it's important to show up for math night and read night. No doubt about it. Y'all, this is what we have to do. Now, I'm speaking to the lawmakers. She's speaking to the community. Y'all, we have to get more involved, because she have said nothing but facts. Nothing but facts. So we got to lock in. We have to lock in as parents, as communities. How many communities, all these mayors running for mayors and stuff, nobody said nothing about setting up a community for a community center for reading interventions? We too busy arguing about a dollar. Let's get something in place for these babies. The community need to step up for our babies. Shout out. But if I may ask, what district you teach in? Because if it's the Dallas County area, that explains why we got 0 on that list. If that's in the Dallas County and Selma City area, that explains why we got 0 on this list. But everybody ain't that fortunate. Everybody ain't that fortunate. We got to catch these read struggles in the kindergarten and first grade. And that's what I read in math and I read in reading is doing. We got to catch them. We got to build a system. We got to catch these struggling readers before they be even retained. Love social media. See, once again, getting involved. Get involved how the parents get involved. If they love social media, you get on social media. Thank you so much for the information. Dr. Sean Myers and Taisha Monshea Cunningham have provided us with so much informative knowledge that we can take back to our parents and to our kids. And we're gonna beat this. We're gonna keep our things at 0 and we're gonna get these reading levels up. Well, no teacher. Yes, you are. If you got a first grader, your first grader, first teacher. Shout out to you. Shout out to you for staying informed. Shout out to you, a parent in here staying informed. We can learn a lot from a parent that stayed informed. Shout out to you. Salute to you. Salute to K-Sean Myers. Salute to y'all for coming in here with quality. We don't got no big crowd in here. We don't got a whole lot of people in here, but the information is equally important. The information is equally important. We need to be more proactive. Intervention. I read math. I read read, as this wonderful parent told us about. That's proactive. Retention is reactive. We need to stop being so reactive and become proactive. And once we do that, we'll see the change that we want to see in our kids. Because here's the big picture. When we retain 5,000 kids in this state alone, we don't just affect their reading scores. We're starting to affect their identity. We're starting to affect their confidence. We are starting to affect the likelihood of them graduating. And we're starting to put them in contact with the prison system. That's the real danger of the Alabama Literacy Act. But the real positive is parents like the one on this screen who is staying up on their first grader to make sure. Y'all see these parents? I gotta call it like it is. The act is what it is. I speak on the act. But what this parent, she ain't coming here making no excuses. She ain't coming in here trying to say this is wrong or this is that. She is proactive. She getting informed. She understand the information. She's studying the information and she making sure her baby prepared to go to first grade and learn, because she know the dangers if they don't. That is why we here, because people like a doctor in education, K-Sean Myers, and a person that's not even in education, but she just got a baby that she loves, is equally informative in this episode. What a show we got over here today. What a show we have today. Shout out to everybody who came in to the chat today. Every year, there are going to be policies. Every decision we make, we got to understand it's our job as parents, communities, educators, administrators to break this pipeline. Retention is not breaking the pipeline, it's reinforcing it. So let me leave you with this question. If our goal is to ensure that every child can read by the 3rd grade, why are we punishing the system for their failures? Why are we putting the burden on the 8-year-old instead of the school, the funding, the resources? Because none of these lawmakers is going around in these schools to make sure that they funded and have the proper resources they need. Why are we punishing the 8th graders? How about for 5,000 3rd graders failing, it's time to vote somebody else in there. Let's see if we can get somebody in with a better plan. I agree that the Alabama Literacy Act has good intention, but without real equity-based supports, it risks becoming just another gear in the school-to-prison pipeline.
The bell rings loud, but the chains are tight. They built these walls to block our light. They teach us rules we never wrote. We stack the deck to steal our hope. Pencils to bars, the light ain't thin. They trap us young before we begin. From chalkboard dreams to cold steel gates, this ain't no future, this is fate. Dress code sharp, but the judgment's blunt. They call us trouble when we confront. Zero tolerance for a distant glance. But where's the love? Where's the second chance? They draw the maps to keep us bound. A pipeline flowing underground. A system built to make us fall. But we're more than numbers, more than walls. We're not just stats in a crooked scheme. We're voices rising, we're a new dream. No judge, no gavel can take our name. We'll rewrite the rules, we'll change the game. Pencils to bars, the light ain't thin. They trap us young before we begin. From chalkboard dreams to cold steel gates, this ain't no future, this is fate.